So we're going to continue on. I don't know if anybody's actually watching these all the way through. Totally impressed if you are. But I'm going to continue. So declinism, the belief that a society or institution is tending towards decline. We already talked about that. That was the end of the last video. What's up, Carrie Ann? How are you? We're at decoy effect. So decoy effect. Preferences for either option A or B change in favor of option B when option C is presented, which is similar to option B but in no way better. Yeah, we'll pass on that one. Denomination effect. The tendency to spend more money when it is denominated in small amounts rather than large amounts. We could go into that, but it's not worth it. Doesn't really apply. Disposition effect. The tendency to sell an asset that has crickets. I know, right? That's funny. I know we're talking about some deep stuff, but disposition. I'm back, Tina. Yeah. Disposition effect. The tendency to sell an asset that has accumulated in value and resist selling an asset that has declined in value. For example, when people have been kicked off of the platform before, and they felt it was so important that they had to be a part of it. They don't want to sell the asset. They don't want to move on. That's a terrible example, but it's a tiny little Jeopardy theme. Love it. But tiny little example. Disposition effect is like people don't want to sell what's growing in value. Or no, what is it? They do want to sell what's growing in value, but they don't want to sell what's not. I honestly think my brain is too fried to go into that one. Let me think. Yeah, no, I'm good. Because I don't think that really applies at all. Distinction bias. The tendency to view two options as more dissimilar when evaluating them simultaneously than when evaluating them separately. Good, you're back. What's up, Amy? I can't connect that one. Distinction bias. I don't know. Dunning-Kruger effect. The tendency for unskilled individuals to overestimate their own ability and the tendency for experts to underestimate their own ability. Truth. Absolute truth. The tendency for... This is called... What are we connecting to again? I'm catching up. Just got here. We're connecting... I don't know. I'm just talking about the cognitive biases at this point. We're relating it... No, it's okay. We're relating it back to... just like we're trying to help so that people don't get duped by the haters anymore. So we're teaching them the tactics. We're teaching how the haters get them to listen to them. These live YouTube things, it's all good. Dunning-Kruger effect. The tendency for unskilled individuals to overestimate their own ability. That's a great catch-up. Yeah. So the tendency for unskilled individuals to overestimate their own ability. So when people feel psychologically they feel educationally qualified to psychologically evaluate someone because they've Googled it once. That's a big animal. Saw a raccoon run. That's a big one. Big one. It's when people overestimate their ability. Here's a perfect example of this. Now, this is going to tie into another cognitive bias, but when somebody is a chiropractor, let's just use one as an example. Being able to regurgitate info isn't understanding said info. Totally agree. Yeah. You have to actually dig into it. Funny. Yeah. No, I already, I read these, I'm into this daily. This is kind of here's how you can know if people actually understand this stuff. Is if they have results. Okay, Dunning-Kruger effect. Am I the only one not seeing anything? Possibly. Try turning chat on. Dunning-Kruger effect. The tendency for... So, perfect example of that is when, a chiropractor is good in his practice and he's well established. So he has this tendency, or like anybody in any profession, they think because they're a skilled professional that they are then entitled to an educated opinion on every subject, right? So like they are also a good investor, and they also understand social media, and they're also great with relationship advice because they're a good chiropractor. Like, and you would not believe the depth and level of how many people succumb to that one. They're God's gift. Well, we're all God's gift. I know what you mean, though. But if you really look around and think about it, how many people think that? Or like a welder. Like you'll have somebody who knows how to weld, and they think that like they understand psychology. Like, now that doesn't mean that they can't. This doesn't mean that because somebody has this profession that they don't have information. This other, if you take what I'm saying and you put it into that, is that different from an authority fallacy? Yes, because like authority fallacy would be groupthink more so. I would believe, right? It'd be more groupthink than not. Like that'd be based on social perception rather than internal perception. I can repair my brakes and can cure world hunger. I'm serious. I believe you. There you go. I mean, but there's the thing, is like if you can prove it, that's what it is. Like a lot of people, good distinction. What it is a lot of times is like people don't have that knowledge, but they front that they do. That's that one right there. Dunning-Kruger effect. That's huge. So many people succumb to that. And then tendency for experts to underestimate their own ability. That one I experience, but I don't understand it. I'll be completely honest. I don't understand it. I don't understand why I haven't pieced that together yet, which is why I still suffer from it. And underestimating myself. Like I'll tell you guys, and I have everything calculated, but realistically, like I still sit and feel humbled by it, and I don't always have that confidence, believe it or not. They think they know it all, but actually they don't have a clue. But who's they? Amy. It's we. It's we. Freddy Krueger effect keeps me up at nights. That's funny. It's we. And as soon as we understand that it's we can help make it less of a we. And when I say we, I include myself. It's we. Not they. It's we. That's Dunning-Kruger effect. Then you have duration neglect. The neglect of the duration of an episode in determining its value. So, for example, when people say that I'm brand new to social media and that I haven't proved myself yet, or like I'm not good enough or whatever, technically they're right. Technically they're right, right? But there are a lot of people who use duration neglect, and they see the proof of how quickly we're growing, and they disproportionately relate that to saying that we're going to stick around. Just because, like, okay, for example, there are many other factors that come into play that are the reason why we're going to continue to grow, right? Like I say, 1 million by next year. There are reasons that come into play because of that. It's not just because of how fast we're growing. Like if you take, okay, he's growing, okay, that's like saying we're going 50 miles an hour. So we're going at this many but we're also getting this many RPMs, rotations per minute, okay? So for anybody that doesn't know what rotations per minute is how many times your tire turns in a minute, okay? Rotations per minute. I'm like 99% sure on that. Okay? So you have your speed and you have your RPMs. Just because you're going 50 miles an hour doesn't mean that you have this many RPMs. Like, if you, like, proportionally, that it's always going to be the same. It will be if it's all in the same vehicle. But your Ford F-150 may have a different ratio for that than another vehicle, right? Than a sedan. A truck is going to have a different ratio than a sedan, the speed compared to the RPMs. So when somebody says, okay, so Jimmy's moving 100 miles an hour, so he definitely has this many RPMs. So, and then they use that RPM to calculate that we're going to be at a certain place at a certain time. Okay? So the speed limit could be the same for every vehicle, but maybe that RPM is different. I'm really used a bad example. I tried. Guys, remember, I'm only 23, but I tried. Remember, I tried. Okay, so that was a total fail, but I tried. So duration neglect. When people neglect the duration of an episode, determining its value. So when people neglect the fact that I've only been on for so long, and it's not, worthy of a whole lot, I'm still earning my stripes. Empathy gap. The tendency to underestimate the influence or strength of feelings in either oneself or others. That can be called, thank you for the interesting info, but I gotta get up early. Nice night. Take care. All right, good night, Amy. Good night. I told you guys, this is the real deal. This is the real deal. You really, guys, this is what it takes. You want to know what it takes? This is what it takes. It's not your charisma. It's not your personality, sparkling personality. Those things come into play. It's not just the look of your body. They all come into play. But this is gold. It's gold. And you need it. You need to understand this stuff. If you ever want to get high up, that's how it works. There is no exceptions. You either get this or somebody else gets it and you don't, and they get one over on you. That's the choice you have to make. How good do you want to be? It's not whether or not you're good, but do you want to be good or do you want to be great? It's interesting. Do you want to be good or do you want to be great? What do you want from life? There's nothing wrong with just wanting to be good, but don't expect to be great if you're not willing to put the work in. This is work. Understanding this stuff is extreme work. It's freaking confusing. Empathy gap. Tendency to underestimate the influence or strength of feelings in either oneself or others. So, I suffer from this one a lot. And that is like, having an ability to recognize other people's feelings. But I only get that way when I get defensive. I'm extremely empathetic and I'm very good at people's feelings. But like when people attack me, I kind of I'll shut down. You know what I mean? I'm not thinking about the fact that maybe they had a bad day. I'm thinking about, okay, I'm getting attacked. I need to take a minute for myself. So that's empathy gap. Is like, how much emotion do you feel when somebody else is experiencing that, or in yourself? You're sensitive. I guess so. Endowment effect. The tendency for people to demand much more to give up an object than they would be willing to pay to acquire it. Demand much more to give up an object than they would be willing to pay to acquire it. Brain's not working well enough for that one today. Sorry. What's up, Doug? I'm waiting to see if the super hearts in my star are going to be held for me. If they're not, I don't know if I'll be coming back. So, as of now, it's on hold. I have my account. It's cloaked, but we'll see. Exaggerated expectation. Based on the estimates, real-world evidence turns out to be less extreme than our expectations, conditionally inverse of the conservatism bias. Okay, so, for example, exaggerated expectation. So there are people that cannot piece together or conceptualize the depth, the level, and the height in which we are going to achieve. So they believe in their mind, truthfully, they truly believe this, that I am creating exaggerated expectations. They believe that in my mind, based on estimates in the real world, evidence turns out to be less extreme than our expectations, than my expectations. So they are assuming that because they cannot, and here's why, they don't have the ability to mentally evaluate the evidence. Okay? So they assume, their brain falters to. It's like, think of it like one of those games where you have the little pegs and you have a little ball or something that drops through them, and then you have cups. Well, think about it like the most intelligent person. Okay. Great. What's it called? all the way, like, think of it, if the ball makes it all the way to the bottom, then you're a really smart person. If you're a decently smart person, the ball drops in one of those cups because positivity is, okay, they want things. I know. But that's because they're focused on an object. They are, okay, anybody that, Doug, when you hear that, there's confusion because positivity is an actual thing. They want things. But who is they? Who is they? Dude, it's consumerism. The people that are stuck on that false idea of positivity, or the trolls, making it an effort of positivity, they are people, those people are people who I can identify accurately as people who are sold on consumerism. They are consumers. They are people who more than likely are bought into emotional addiction of some sort, whether it's sexual, emotional, whether it's food, like you name it. There is something in their life that they have now become a consumer to, an extreme consumer of, and there is an addiction of some sort that cannot be broken, and that causes the mind to enter a state of consumerism. And that state of consumerism says, I need a thing. I need a thing. Because if there's not a thing, then it's not real. Okay? So they're stuck on that consumerism. It's real. I gotta receive something. If I'm not receiving something that I can conceptualize, then it's not there. So there is value in what I'm selling, but they don't recognize the value is worth more than most things. Exactly, does Doug. But they do not recognize the value because they don't have the ability to evaluate that value because they are sold on consumerism. They have to consume. And if they don't feel like they're consuming something, then they assume that it has no value. Read The Righteous Mind, Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion by Jonathan Haidt. This discussion makes me think about it. No, I've never heard of it. I've never heard of it. I'll have to look into it, though. Thank you. Yeah. So. It's about how moral judgments arise not from reason, but from gut feelings. Sorry to interrupt. No, you're good. I don't care, dude. This is a discussion. Hope you're doing well. Thanks, Sir Saint. How are you? Rise not from reason, but from gut feelings. Yeah, that to me that sounds like a bit of a, I don't want to say a gimmick, but it definitely sounds like a grab me book. If it's talking about gut feelings. That's, I mean, unless it explains the psychology of it. Getting there, tired, yeah. Oh no, I think I have poison ivy. Do I have poison ivy? Yes, I do. It was Old Car City. Great. Okay. Oh no. Yeah, really bad. Really not good. But yeah, I do not want to have that. Yeah, I had it once before, earlier in the year. Not good. Not good. Experimenters or expectation bias. The tendency for experimenters to believe, certify, and publish data that agree with their expectations for the outcome of an experiment, and to disbelieve, discard, or downgrade the corresponding weightings for data that appear to conflict with those expectations. Okay, so pretty much, this is what all haters do every day, all the time. Non-stop. Experimenters or expectation bias. The tendency for experimenters, aka haters, to believe, certify, and publish data that agree with their expectations for the outcome of an experiment, and to disbelieve, discard, and downgrade the corresponding weighted data, weightings, meaning weight, like having substance, for data that appear to conflict with those expectations. AKA, put out as much fake as they can, make it look as true as they can, and then make an effort to disprove as much truth as they can. For fun, what good can come from poison ivy? I don't know, man. I don't know. Good question. A resilience not to scratch. What's up, Kai? How are you? Welcome on, dude. I can't believe 26 people want to listen to this, to be quite honest. I expected to have like 2 or 3 people in here for this. And this is part 2. This is round 2. We're at like an hour and 30, 40 minutes. Nice, yeah. I did not think anybody'd be here. I was just going to talk to myself, and it was totally fine. Late night scope. What's up, Jason Cook? How are you? Learned a lot. Good. But I'm not teaching you. Remember, it's like I'm not even here. I'm just reading data. Jimmy Saroka is not a teacher. I'm just reading data. And whatever you absorb from it, that's good. I think one of the worst things people do is identify aggregators as teachers. Like when you go to school, do you have a teacher or do you have an aggregator? Do you have somebody that actually has internal wisdom and they teach it to you? Or do you have somebody that is receiving wisdom from a book that was written by someone else who is the actual teacher and they are aggregating it to you? They're not the teacher. Now, if they teach you different life lessons and stuff like that, that's different. If you personally bond with them, that's different. But when you learn math from your math teacher, they're not your teacher. They're your aggregator. They are somebody that is bringing you information that someone else taught, that someone else was a scholar of. You can't have a million different teachers, scholars, pioneers. They're not pioneers. They are regurgitating what's already been written by the teacher. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the second we call them teachers, I think it's getting a lot of people confused because it's giving them a lot more clout than they've earned. Now, with that said, we don't want to take, it's not saying that they haven't earned the ability to teach, to share the information. That's what they're taught in college. In college, these people are taught how to appropriately share knowledge that has already been bestowed upon us with you. They're not taught to teach it. They were taught how to share it with you in a way that will help you absorb it. That's what they've done. They're teaching you how to learn, if anything. But even then, it's based on a roadmap that's already been handed to them. When is it going to be enough? It never will be. So long as I speak the truth, so long as I make people smarter, they will continue to hate me. Because the smarter people are, the dumber they look. It's important to teach to come from within. Yeah. Like even right now, I'm not teaching you. I'm not teaching you a darn thing. I'm qualified to share this with you, but I'm not your teacher. I'm sharing with you information that's from a Wikipedia page. I'm not your freaking teacher. Because I didn't come up with this stuff. A teacher from a long time ago came up with this stuff. I'm simply sharing it with you. What I'm doing right now is the same thing that your teacher in school does. And I don't need a piece of paper to do it. Now, I've done enough self-education that I'm not hurting the world by sharing it. And that's what's important. That's why I personally feel like the college education system is so important. It keeps people who are not qualified to share this information in a way that will be beneficial to the student from getting into the system, right? It makes sure that, at least for the most part, right? It makes sure, disseminate information, yeah. It makes sure that the students remain students and not wasted cases. So yes, I do personally feel that the college education system is extremely important, this day and age especially. Especially in a day and age when most people believe... Now, that's coming from somebody who never went to college. You know, I feel there's a lot of people who personally believe that they're qualified to share that info. But quite honestly, I mean, like even this, like this is hard. Like I've been studying this since... The point is, it's a big deal. Okay, like before you try to teach somebody or share something with someone, make sure that you understand it yourself. That's just my recommendation. It's your life. You do what you want to do. But for example, I'm not going to try to teach you how to play tennis. I'll explain to you the cognitive biases because I read them every day. But I'm not going to expect you to learn tennis from me because I don't understand tennis. I'm not going to be a good tennis aggregator. I can tell you that. It's not going to go over well. Okay, focusing effect. The tendency to place too much importance on one aspect of an event. So, for example, I helped that homeless woman a couple days ago, right? Her and her husband. And one of the biggest hater complaints was that she was smoking a cigarette. That's focusing effect. The tendency to place too much importance on one aspect of an event. Okay? So when I'll help people and the haters will go ahead and they'll focus on one little piece. These people that talk about me, notice when they do that. They are doing that because they know that with groupthink, they can get you to focus on it. You don't like to... you introduced me to it. You don't like to take credit because it doesn't belong to me. I take credit for introducing you to it. I absolutely take credit for introducing you to it, but I don't take credit for teaching it to you because I'm not the teacher for helping. Yeah, I'll take credit for absolutely I'm helping you. Yeah, I see that. But I'm only showing it to you. I'm not the teacher. But at the same time, you got to realize the way that I help is by putting it in front of you. You receive it and you do something with it. I'm not putting it inside you. You take credit for that. The teacher who invented this system, the teacher aggregated information that was already existent in nature, but it brought us into a thought that we could understand. When those who appear informed that have a little humility, I think it helps people feel safe, which makes them open to listening, in my opinion, like you're doing right now. Well, thank you. And thank you for clarifying that, because you understood that through the comment, I might have taken it the wrong way. Thank you. So there you go. So for the Barnum effect, the observation that individuals will give high accuracy ratings to descriptions of their personality that supposedly are tailored specifically for them, but are in fact vague and general enough to apply to a wide range of people. This effect can provide a partial explanation for the widespread acceptance of some beliefs and practices, such as astrology, fortune-telling, graphology, and some types of personality tests. Horoscopes. Iffy subject right there. I don't want to go into that one, quite honestly, because that is a very deep cognitive bias that I'd say 85% of mankind is subject to. So I'm not going to get a whole lot of friendships out of going into that one. I do understand it. I am broken from it. But it is way too touchy for me to go into. I will get myself in a lot of trouble. So we're going to move on from that one. Fair enough, yeah. Framing effect. Drawing different conclusions from the same information depending on how that information is presented. They do it to me every day. Non-stop. Absolutely non-stop. For example, no examples. Advertisements. Yep. No examples on that one. I think you guys can kind of inference that on your own. Yep. Frequency illusion. The illusion in which a word, a name, or other thing that has recently come to one's attention suddenly seems to appear with improbable frequency shortly afterwards, not to be confused with the recency illusion or selection bias. This illusion may explain some examples of the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon, Bader-Meinhof phenomenon, when someone repeatedly notices a newly learned word or phrase shortly after learning it. Think of it like when you see a car, or like your friend has a car and you start seeing it everywhere, or something like your friend gets a new car and you start seeing it all over the road, or like your own car, stuff like that. So that's a bias. As far as relating that back, I don't know that I can necessarily relate that back. Well, yeah. I don't know, maybe you could, but I'm not doing it right now. Functional fixedness limits a person to using an object only in the way it's traditionally used. I think that can personally be drawn into business. So functional fixedness, my business model and the way that I operate and our community operates is very unique, extremely unique. Through live streaming, tips and stuff like that is all brand new. It's a brand new system. And even though it could definitely be compared to other things in real life, because it's so new contextually, I think it makes it difficult for people to accept. And because it's not traditional, they relate it to something that's wrong. Or like, for example, me living in my car, right? It's not wrong. It's not wrong. It's different. It's very difficult. It's a complicated subject, but it's not wrong. But people who have lower levels of thinking will see it as morally wrong. That it is literally not just that it's uncomfortable, but they will see it as though it's the wrong thing to do, that it's the wrong choice. It's morally corrupt. Why? Largely social bias. It's the way we're raised. It's the way we're taught. The ultimate tiny house. Yeah. It's the way we're taught. It's the way we're raised. It's the society we live in. It's the time that we live in. That's no different than, what was it, in the 40s or 50s? I mean, for anybody that doesn't know, swimsuits. For anybody that doesn't know, swimsuits, like bikinis, are actually modeled after lingerie. The first two-piece bikinis were actually lingerie. There was, I think it was a Frenchman who made lingerie, and he couldn't get any of the models to wear this underwear, this bathing suit underwear, that was made to be worn in public. And what he actually did was he hired a group of prostitutes, because no model would ever be seen in this two-piece bathing suit that showed their belly or showed their legs, or especially their shoulders. So what they did was he actually hired a group of prostitutes to go on a runway and to do this. And he built up enough momentum with it that it started to get popular. And now you have the modern day bathing suit. The two-piece, the underwear that you wear outside that's considered socially appropriate. Now, maybe 40, 50 years ago, if you went outside wearing something like that, you'd get in a lot of trouble. And, even look at the Amish. I mean, today the Amish are like that. But that's a fact. You go look that up. Yes, that is how bathing suits came into existence. So as far as, like, me personally, I'm not telling you what I like and don't like. I'm just telling you where it came from and what it is. But I'm trying to think. So bathing suit and the social perception, when it first came out, people, there was a report, there were literally reports of police officers who were reprimanding men who were giving women the googly eyes. No joke. That was a thing in the local newspapers down south, where men were getting reprimanded for giving women googly eyes because they were wearing these bathing suits. That is the difference from society 50 years ago to today. So that's functional fixedness. Is that 50 years ago, it was not appropriate to be seen in public with your belly showing or anything of the sort, right? I mean, for the most part, right? What's googly eyes? Like checking somebody out, looking at them promiscuously. I'm not going to get, checking them out, pretty much. So functional fixedness said that 50 years ago, it was inappropriate to look at someone sexually in a social public setting. Now, it's the norm. Living in my car, yes, very different subjects. Same idea. It's not morality. It's social acceptedness. This is not socially accepted. So it's going to be much easier to get people to buy into the false cognitive biases associating something negative with me because of my current lifestyle, because I can't afford a more expensive lifestyle yet. So for anybody that's wondering, why did the lies pick up such traction so easily? That's why. Because my lifestyle is a little different. And people immediately associate it with homelessness. They associate it with vagrancy. They associate it with thievery. They associate it with social inappropriacy. They think like, you know, they'll say like I'm peeing in a parking lot, which obviously I'm not. I'm not a homeless dude. I'm not. I'm a transient. I live in my car. I travel. I'm a traveler. I'm a professional vlogger. That's what I do. On a on a super shoestring budget. People could call it whatever they want, but at the end of the day, I describe it as what I do. I don't describe it based on what it looks like. I describe it based on what it is. And what it is a young man who is a vlogger and makes almost just enough money to get by, lives in his car, travels, sees some cool places, shares it with the world, and that's it. That's what it is. It doesn't matter what some people say that it is. It doesn't matter what people think that it is. It matters what it is. And our major viewership, 99% of the people are on board with this. This video is to help save the people who are trapped by the lies. Just one for them. Because there are people in there who deserve to be a part of our family, who deserve to be a part of our community, and we give this video for them. I don't know what she's writing, but that girl got a whole bunch of her messages blocked. What's up, Daniel? How are you? So that's functional fixedness. Gambler's fallacy. The tendency to think that future probabilities are altered by past events, when in reality they are unchanged. The fallacy arises from an erroneous conceptualization of the law of large numbers. For example, I've flipped heads with a coin 5 times consecutively, so the chance of tails coming up on the 6th flip is much greater than heads. So, yeah, I think that one's pretty self-explanatory, right? So, I think that can play a lot in when people think that people can't change, right? When it becomes harder to give someone trust, when they continue to make mistakes. The reality is, if that person is presented with the right evidence and they're presented with the right mindset, and gain enough discipline, there is a possibility for them to change. It's not always 50-50 though, and that's what you have to evaluate. You know, what are the chances? What are the odds of them upgrading and changing? Me personally, I've made a lot of mistakes, and I continue to, right? You always fail forward. But I have proven my adaptability factor. I have proven that my coin is about a 90-10. That means that every time I make a mistake, there's a 90% chance that I'm going to get over it quickly and do better, and a 10% chance that I'm going to make that mistake a second time. Because there's no room for second mistakes. There's no room for continuing to make those mistakes. Now, are there mistakes in my life that I do make continuously? Absolutely. But 99% of them are irrelevant to like anything that I do relating to anybody else. They're like stupid little things, like forgetting to put the windows up at night, or stuff like that. So that's gambler's fallacy. So when people are like, "Oh, Jimmy made a mistake," well, we can't trust him anymore. No, it's obvious. We all make mistakes, and what you do is you learn from that mistake and you never make it again. And like different mistakes are going to offend different people. And it's going to depend on their intellectual tendencies. Do they have the ability to recognize that we're going to grow past it? Don't forget to put up those windows. I know. I woke up one night so bitten up, dude. Hard, easy effect. Based on a specific level of task difficulty, the confidence in judgments is too conservative and not extreme enough. We're going to move past that one. Hindsight bias. Sometimes called the "I knew it all along" effect. The tendency to see past events as being predictable at the time those events happened. So when everybody's like, "Yeah, we knew Jimmy was a scammer. We knew this, we knew that. We knew he would get kicked off scope." When number one, I was never kicked off scope, and two, none of that is true. But they're trying to piece together, which ties back to the other bias of the phantom cluster. They phantom clustered that information because one little thing happened that seemed inconsistent to them, even though it was consistent. It was a legitimate scenario. But they have an ability then to use the weak mind to piece together the false information. And then they disseminate that information because they believe it's true. So that's hindsight bias. Yeah. I'm not done with Periscope. But as far as I know, we'll see. I have my account no matter what. I just haven't decided to come back on yet. We're going to see whether or not I get my stars and money. I'll still probably come back on. It's just my focus is going to change if they don't provide what I've already earned. Hostile attribution bias. The hostile attribution bias is the tendency to interpret others' behaviors as having hostile intent, even when the behavior is ambiguous and benign. For example, when I'm online and I'm talking to people, I'm trying to help them. Or like in Snapchat, if somebody messages me, every now and again, we'll have a conversation and I'll give them a blunt answer to a question they asked, because they needed some wisdom. And they honestly, they asked me, they're like, what do you think about this? I give them my response and they lose their mind. They're like, that's not true, da-da-da. I'm like, okay. And my delivery is pretty good. Usually, it's a pretty good delivery. They just don't like what they hear. So, hostile attribution bias. They assume that because they had a hard time handling the information I delivered, their brain conceptualizes that I was making an effort to deliver it with hostility. And you see that in relationships, right? You see that everywhere. where people don't like what they hear, so they assume that somebody said it to hurt their feelings, when really they were just sharing with them how it is, right? Hot hand fallacy. The hot hand fallacy, also known as the hot hand phenomenon or hot hand, is the fallacious belief that a person who has had experienced success with a random event has a greater chance of further success in additional attempts. Absolutely true. So, for example, people were dumb enough to think that me getting on social media and finding success was a fluke, that it was a rarity, and that we just picked up random virality and it just happened at random. When the fact of the matter is, every little move that I'm making is absolutely calculated. Moving forward. Hyperbolic discounting. That doesn't explain the bias, because the last bias pretty much says that people will think that just because they got success once that they're going to get it again. That's resilience. If you're not adaptable and resilient, you're not going to get it. There's a lot of people on that app, guys. A lot of people that used to get a lot of attention, and now they think they're hot stuff. But now they don't get any attention, but they still think they're hot stuff. Well, I had more views, da-da-da-da-da. Well, you don't anymore, and I don't see you picking it back up. That's hot hand fallacy. They picked up on a trend, they got hot for a minute, and now they're gone. The ability to stay on top is based on your ability to stay relevant, to connect with people, and build those relationships. Why do you think that I lost? Guys, we put on hold my second largest platform, and we're still hitting it and doing well on other social platforms. Why? Because we weren't a flash in the pan. We're not a flash in the pan. We're about to explode. So share us on your Facebook, share us on your Twitter, and tell the world. Because we are the next Logan Paul. Welcome to the party. You might not see it now. That's because my content does not match that level yet. And it will. But guys, that's having patience with the process. We've gotten started, and we will get better little by little. And we will continue to grow little by little, just as we have been the last 3 months. And it will come because I am perseverant, and because I am adaptable, and because our community believes in my ability to lead this movement, and I believe in our community and its ability to back up this movement in order to keep it alive. Hi, Vicky. He's a vlogger. He's about it's like 20 million. Good dude. Crazy dude. Good dude. Hyperbolic discounting. Discounting is the tendency for people to have a stronger preference for more immediate payoffs relative to later payoffs. Hyperbolic discounting leads to choices that are inconsistent over time. People make choices today that their future selves would prefer not to have made, despite using the same reasoning. Also known as current moment bias, present bias, and related to dynamic inconsistency. So pretty much, when people make bigger decisions that are not consistent with their, when they make decisions that them as a whole would not normally make. So, for example, if you make $20,000 a year and you see a $20,000 car that you can get for $300 a month for a couple years, and you buy that car, that is inconsistent with the finances that you receive. Does that make sense? It's inconsistent with the money that you make. So like you made that, was it hyperbolic discounting? So you hyperbolically discounted that decision. You said, okay, I like this. I like how this is. I want this. But you didn't factor in long term. Okay? There's the long and the short. You were focused on the short. Oh, I like this car. I want it. And you got it. But you don't actually have it. It's not yours. But you're using it on borrowed time, borrowed money, right? Until it's actually paid off. So that's hyperbolic discounting. That's the same. It's my car. It's how my car is. That's how, before I learned about this stuff, or at least hyperbolic discounting. I was too sold into it. I liked the car too much. But then we got identifiable victim effect. The tendency to respond more strongly to a single identified person at risk than a large group of people at risk. People always just look at monthly cost. Yeah, and that's a reference to the car. If you want to reference it to contributions, like within Super Hearts, I would get people that would give me $200 in Super Hearts in a day, but they didn't want to give $5 a month on Patreon. Because with Super Hearts, it was an immediate reaction. They got an immediate result. Whereas, and just like Super Chat here on YouTube, guaranteed, people will be willing to give in Super Chat much more quickly than they will on Patreon. Where our Patreon's at like $220, and I'm like broke AF. Like I'm in a tough spot right now. Whereas Super Hearts were just like bam, like all the time. And but people didn't want to give $5 per month on Patreon. So it's that most definitely, a hyperbolic discounting is a very real thing. Identifiable victim effect, tendency to respond more strongly to a single identified person at risk than to a large group of people at risk. True. I like to see people's reactions when I give them stuff. Yep. That's another one. It's emotional. Yep. So like when you see them do, for example, if you used to see those infomercials of this super dressed up dude in like this Australian like net hat, and he's hanging out with these little African kids that are all cleaned up now, and they're put them on camera. That is identifiable victim effect. That is them trying to sell the larger agenda using an individual. Or for example, when you need to make a difference, with a movement, you guys saw recently with the celebrity scandal with this dude who was abusing women, and there's a lot of different celebrities. One of them including Cara Delevingne, who I like this, including Cara Delevingne, who stood up and spoke out about her personal story of being sexually approached by this man. People give selfishly, if that makes sense. Yeah, once again, gratitude is ingrained in us, but so is selfishness. She shared her personal story. Now, when people share their personal stories about what went on with this dude, it's going to build a much greater case for female equality, which I totally agree with. It's incredible what they're doing right now. But those individual stories, although they're personal and hurtful, tough to tell, they're extremely important because of the identifiable victim effect. It makes it personal. It makes it real. So like when people, I'm selfish sometimes. It's all good. So like with homeless people, right? I hung out with Terry and helped them out, her and her husband. That was personal. That was the identifiable victim effect. You guys could see an individual person that we were helping, as opposed to helping homeless people. We were helping Terry. We helped Terry. We helped Terry's husband. It's much more personal. and it's much more important. People realize that we're making an immediate difference. The IKEA effect. The tendency for people to place a disproportionately high value on objects that are partially assembled themselves, such as regardless of quality of the end result. So, yeah. Okay. So that's not that relevant here. Unless you think about, I don't know, Terry Hubby's work. That's personal stuff. Like I said, we're not going into it. That's kind of an invasive question. Like that. I mean, to get that personal is like that's their life. Like they're not. You know what I mean? Like I think about if you were homeless, would you want everybody to know everything about you? You know what I mean? They're just very very private. They don't want that shared. But illusion of control. The tendency to overestimate one degree of... Okay. You're going to tell me no on my own broadcast? The tendency to overestimate one's degree of influence over other external events. Illusion of control. Tendency to overestimate. See, now, illusion of control is what a lot of haters think that I have. They think that I have illusion of control. The tendency to overestimate one's degree of influence over the external events. I thought I could go for a distance. I'm fainting, homie. I thought I could go the distance. Sleep well, my friend. Sleep well. So, like, they don't recognize the fact that I actually have this calculated, so they genuinely believe that I'm not in control of their actions. When the reality is the haters are doing everything that I want every day, nonstop. Everything. They're absolutely under my control. And I'm not doing anything to do that. They are doing it organically. I'm not manipulating them. I'm not doing anything. It's just they have an incessant need to obsess over me. So they are acting in a way that is extremely predictable. So they are controlled by my actions. So, like, I'm not doing anything to make them do what they're doing. I don't have to. And even if I could, I wouldn't do it. I told you guys I don't manipulate people. But they are so predictable that I can tell you exactly what they're going to do, and I just make sure to predicate my actions and choose my actions based on what they're doing so that it stays in line. And I stay one step ahead. They lack control. Yes, that's exactly what I mean. But it creates the illusion of control. So yes, I made an Insta and hit you up there. All right, thanks, bro. Sleep well, Hans. Illusion of validity. Belief that furtherly acquired information generates additional relevant data for predictions, even when it evidently does not. Okay, this can be absolutely applied to all the falsehoods that people create about me. Illusion of validity. Belief that further acquired information generates additional relevant data for predictions. So, even though all the lies that are spread, people think that evidence to a lie makes the lie more believable. But it only makes the lie more believable if you believe that just merely having evidence, whether it's true or not, makes the subject true. So people are believing that a lie is true simply because there's false evidence behind that lie. They're not investigating the evidence, and they're also not investigating the lie. So they are then feeling solidified to believe the lie. And that is illusion of validity. Illusory correlation. What's up, Summer? How are you? Illusory correlation. Inaccurately perceiving a relationship between two unrelated events. I don't think I even need to explain that one. Okay, maybe I do. So when I tried to go to Houston to help out, and I ran out of money halfway there, and I had to turn around, and because people didn't want to pay for me to be in a risky scenario, so funding got cut off. People literally just stopped giving. because as much as they wanted me to help, they didn't want to see me in a dangerous position. So the funding got cut off, and we then did a fundraiser to get back because I was out. And what the haters did was they correlated the two. They said that we turned around because it was a scam, that I scammed people and got money for Houston, when none of the finances were ever mentioned as being used for Houston, nor being collected for Houston, nor being collected to make it to Houston, that they were simply collection. And, in order to push the movement forward. And so what they did then was created that false evidence, right? Illusion of validity. They created false evidence saying that I said that it was a collection for Texas. And then they used that information alongside me turning around, and then they used the illusory correlation, put those pieces together, and then used illusion of validity and said, look, it's true, right? And here's the thing, you guys, we're going to get into the Lollapalooza effect eventually. The Lollapalooza effect is when so many cognitive biases are used together that it literally scrambles your, I don't want to say scrambles your brain, scrambles your mind, but it scrambles your ability to recognize a truth from a lie. It scrambles your ability not to look away. Like, it gets you obsessed that you have to see it, you have to experience whatever it is. And that's the Lollapalooza effect. So when you throw more than one bias together, the smarter you are, the more it takes. But here we have, just with simple illusion of control and illusory correlation, plus a few others thrown in there, that they did that in reference to Texas to try and make it look as though I was collecting money for Texas to create that falsehood. And these are the tactics that they use. So once again, you are now educated on this. For those 16 of you in here and whoever watches the replay, you are educated on this. You do not have to let them get you. You are smart. You are now educated on this. You cannot say that they're right because you see that they're wrong. You see the truth now. You got to move forward with it. The truth is not about who's right or wrong. The truth is about what's real. What's real. You got to get past their mental manipulation. And that's what I'm trying to help you do. So, illusory truth effect. A tendency to believe that a statement is true if it is easier to process or if it has been stated multiple times, regardless of its actual veracity. These are specific cases of truthiness. Okay, so illusory truth effect. Every hater uses this, okay? A tendency to believe that a statement is true if it is easier to process. Let me ask you a question. What's easier to process? That I have the mental capacity and ability to calculate an entire year's worth of Google Analytics to the point where I can say we're going to be at 1 million subscribers next year? Or is it easier to believe that I'm starting a cult? It's a lot easier to believe I'm starting a cult because it sounds pretty easy. That's why people believe it, because it's a lot easier to believe. If you're given the choice, here's a lottery ticket, and you have a 1 in 2 chance of winning, and if you click it, if you take it, you'll win $5 million. This is okay. Never mind. That was going to be a bad example. But the point is just that it's easier to believe. So people will believe things that are easier to believe. Things that enter their brain and make sense right away. And the reason for that is because we want to believe we're right. We want to believe that we are in control, that our mind has already perceived the truth, that we don't have to be any smarter to perceive what's actually in front of us. And that's a big piece of our ego. Illusory truth effect, a tendency to believe that a statement is true if it's easier to process or if it has been stated multiple times. So smaller minds, people with smaller minds, the more that they see a lie, the more they believe it. So when you go to Google and search my name and you find 40 fake pages, well, a smaller mind is going to be sold on the lies of that page. They're going to be sitting there and reading all of it. Guys, I'll invite you to something. Don't read it. Don't search it. Don't click on it. Because every time you do, you give it search engine optimization. Every time you click on one of those, you increase it in the Google rankings. You realize that. You give it power. You give power to a lie every time you click on one of those. Just so you know. Every time you want to, well, I just want to read it. I just want to figure it out. That's exactly what they want. Because the second you acknowledge the lies that they say, your brain processes that information. But what you don't understand is that the core, the raw part of your brain, does not have an ability to differentiate between what's true and false in an immediate sense. It needs proof. And when you are dealing with a subject where there is no proof, except finding false proof from the other side, because I don't put stuff out there about it, that's what you're going to get. And your brain is going to process it like it's true. And it's going to be that much harder to believe me. Do you get that? It's going to be that much harder to actually follow along with what's really going on. So I would invite you not to search that, because you're not going to help yourself. You're going to confuse yourself further. Why do I omit these things? Because it keeps people interested. If I revealed everything about me, that'd be pretty boring. That's no fun. I have enough confidence in myself and my ability to prove myself through my actions. I don't need to explain myself to anybody. I don't. The truth is obvious. It doesn't take much. So that's the illusory truth effect. Now, once again, I'm teaching you guys how to overcome the haters. This is how they operate. These are mental capacities. This is how they operate. Impact bias, the tendency to overestimate the length of the intensity of the impact of future feeling states. We're not going to go into that one. Information bias, the tendency to seek information even when it cannot affect action. I don't have to speak on that one. I think that's pretty obvious. Insensitivity to sample size, the tendency to under-expect variation in small samples. If anything, it would be people see a young 23-year-old guy and they see me on platforms that other people have failed at, and they see me operating it in a way that's unique and hasn't worked before, and it's working. But their rational thought will tell them, okay, prior knowledge and prior examples tell me this isn't going to work, right? But I'm proving that it does, or at least it can, if it's the right person, and that's us right here, this community. Have a good night. Thank you. You too, Hank. Sleep well. Seeing if you didn't notice, my tone changed. I'm seeing who goes to bed. Irrational escalation, the phenomenon where people justify increased investment in a decision based on the cumulative prior investment, despite new evidence suggesting that the decision was probably wrong, also known as the sunk cost fallacy. So that's pretty much solidifying what I said earlier, explaining how people will justify a mistake that they made instead of owning up to it. More or less, that's pretty much it. That's irrational escalation. Law of the instrument. An over-reliance on a familiar tool or methods, ignoring or undervaluing alternative approaches. If all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So for those people that I invite you to think this way, a smarter way, guys, do you get it? Your method, for the haters out there, your method of thought in order to process the information that's handed to you is going to continue to make you into a sucker. And they will leech off you and get you to hate and get you to mob and keep you as a sheep. Earn your freedom by being removed through the law of the instrument and understand that there are more effective ways of thought. Even if you're 50, 60, 70 years old, I am sorry, you are still wrong. If you are sitting here and you are telling me that my information is inaccurate, you are still wrong. If you are a PhD, if you're a millionaire, if you're freaking Bill Gates, and you tell me that this is inaccurate, you are wrong. Because this is scientific fact. This is not Jimmy Saroka's opinion. This is scientific fact that is not alterable. This is some of the deepest psychology that exists today. You will not touch or change this. You can deepen it, but this has already been sound proof and evidence of humanity's ability to articulate cognitive bias. It's fact. This is not Jimmy Saroka's opinion. This is not, well, he's just a kid. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not the one talking. I am simply reiterating words that have existed for thousands of years. I am simply reiterating words that have been aggregated over the past couple hundred of years. This is not Jimmy Saroka's opinion. This is Jimmy Saroka spewing scientific fact. Remember that. And that's the law of the instrument. An over-reliance on a familiar tool or method, ignoring or undervaluing alternative approaches. Acknowledge this approach. These cognitive biases are accurate. Use them to evaluate the scenarios you're now in. Use them to evaluate whether or not you're being manipulated by these people that you follow. Come join the real fam. I'm going to win you over. One way or the other. We'll see how it is. We'll see whether or not I win you over by intelligence, which is what I'm doing right. My goal right now is to win over the intelligent people, because y'all are going to be the core of our viewership. Y'all are going to be the core of our family, the most loving family in the internet, the most awesome content. We're just getting started, right? It will be our intelligent viewers that will be the core, the foundation of our vlog. 110%. I need you. We need you. All right? So that's what I'm doing right now. As we get bigger and do better and get more proof through my actions, guys, we will win over the people who need to be won over by I like to be won over. Good stuff. We will win over the people who operate by cognitive bias. We will win over the people who are too emotional or more emotional. But right now, my goal is to call out the people who are already intelligent enough to pick up on this stuff and who want to be who want to be a part of the core of what we're getting done here. And two, to help educate those and elevate those who want to be on that level, who are sick and tired of the hate, who are sick and tired of being lied to and manipulated, jumping back, well, who do I believe? Who do I believe? Stop believing a person and start believing the truth. Believe yourself. Get educated. And why would I introduce you to truth? They won't show you this. I promise you they won't show you this. They won't do it. They might do a mock-up. They might do a mock-up and be like, look, no, this is how Jimmy's using it. But I'm not using it. Do you see me doing any manipulation? No. Jay, what's up? The only cognitive bias that I am engaging with in this entire conversation is called authority bias. I am making myself to you, at least I'm making an effort to make an authority of myself to you on this subject by speaking the truth about it and showing you what it is, right? My effort is that you don't get stuck in the bias where you see the information, you think just because I'm providing information that I'm right. That's not what it is. I don't want you guys to look at the fact that I just provided information, because then you'll still be stuck in that bias. I want you to realize that I shared with you information. I don't see anything. I don't know, Jay. I don't want you to get stuck on the fact. I don't want you to get stuck on the thought that the information that I'm providing is within itself of worth. Its worth and proof that I'm telling you the truth is based in my results in real life. Okay? So this is the reason why this is happening. This information is the reason why it's happening in real life. And that's the proof I want you to have to understand that I'm sharing with you something that's going to help to unlock your potential and to get you out from under the grip of these disgusting people. Okay? So next one is less is better effect. The tendency to prefer a smaller set to a larger set judged separately but not jointly. We're going to skip that one. Look elsewhere effect. An apparently statistically significant observation may have actually excuse me. An apparently statistically significant observation may have actually arisen by chance because of the size of the parameter space to be searched. So look elsewhere effect. I'm not going to explain how the haters use that because they really don't understand how to use it. But I use it, but not against you or like on you. I use it within my data. And what I mean by that is that using the look elsewhere effect, what's called? Like, I get very relevant statistics that appear based on situations that arise. Okay. Why am I getting shares from parent? Why the heck am I getting that right now? Give me a quick second. I should not be getting that notification. Yeah, okay, I didn't think so. Good. What was I gonna say? Look elsewhere bias. Or look elsewhere effect. So, like when I'm collecting data, I have so many people in my Snapchat that I see trends. People with the same name, people who literally look alike, people like and same last name, first name, last name, people that look alike, people that are the same age and drive the same car, and look the same, like that kind of spooky stuff. And that's look elsewhere effect is like statistically significant observation. Like it's obvious that it's a real thing, but it's only happening by chance. Like it's not like I couldn't have gone out and successfully collected that data. Like that's not, I don't have the money, time, or manpower to collect that sort of statistic. But being, that's how we got it. That's how I got that info. Was through Snap. Just being the volume that it is. But loss aversion, the disutility of giving up an object is greater than the utility associated with acquiring it. So like it's harder to let go of something, pretty much. Loss aversion, like we don't want to give stuff up, even if it's hurting us. Think like relationships. When you're dating and you're dating somebody poisonous, loss aversion, we don't want to let go. Life is weird. Yeah. We don't want to let go. That's loss aversion, 110%. It's, we don't want to feel like we're missing out on something when realistically that person may be robbing us of everything we could have. Mere exposure effect. The tendency to express undue liking for things merely because of familiarity with them. So mere exposure effect. So that ties back to that other, I can't remember which bias it was, but how many times it gets seen, how many times people see something. So like mere exposure effect, just how much you see someone or spend time with them, helps you to feel connected with them. So for anybody that saw that I would be on broadcast for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, it's because I understand the fact that using that cognitive bias, it helps me to further connect with people. The more time I spend with them, the more invested in me they feel. And the more invested in me they feel, the more that I can make a difference in their life, because they're going to be more willing to listen to me. They're going to be more willing to open up their heart and tell me about their problems. But it's a lot harder to do that. The more time that you spend with people, the more of a friendship they feel they have with you. So people will open up a lot more, and I can talk with them about their problems and what they got going on. So that's mere exposure effect. Like I said, that's not me manipulating anybody. That's like saying, well, you and your girlfriend hang out 5 days a week. And she's manipulating you because you hang out 5 days a week and you're attached to her. Like, no, no. It's not. It's called investment. It's called you investing in people. Like, I invest in people by spending that much time with them. It's not me manipulating people. I can't do that way. Mere exposure effect is not a form of manipulation unless it's used for manipulation. Like to direct people for a reason other than friendship, like other than just mutual beneficiary scenarios. Money illusion. The tendency to concentrate on the nominal value, face value of money, rather than its value in terms of purchasing power. Yeah, irrelevant. Moral credential effect. The tendency of a track record of non-prejudice to increase subsequent prejudice. I direct on accident sometimes. Yeah, that's not good. You gotta be careful with that. I think I have a feeling. I think I know exactly what you're talking about. It's extremely dangerous. You gotta be very, very careful on that one. If you feel that you're doing that, I would lay off completely. I would not pursue. I would absolutely take a moment to yourself. Here's what I will tell you guys. If you not succumb, but if you have the ability to enact, and that means to use any of these cognitive biases, and you are using them either on purpose or on accident, I would absolutely, and a lot of people do, most people do, believe it or not, I would most definitely recommend that you take a step back from your life, identify them, write it down, and figure out a way to eradicate it from your actions, because that's very dangerous. Like, you can hurt a lot of people. You're manipulating people, which, and here's the thing about manipulation that people don't understand. Some people think manipulation is good. Here's what I want you to understand about the negativity of manipulation. When you manipulate people, it's not organic. When you direct someone's actions, when you're not organic, when you're not completely natural, it stunts your own personal growth. You can't grow if it's not happening naturally. If you manipulate a scenario, I direct people away from me sometimes. Yeah, same thing. There you go, man. Can you talk about the money thing again? I missed it. Nah, Tiffany, we moved on from that. Thank you, though. Because it's not like I'm not trying to, because if I do that, then I'm going to be ousting everybody on scope. They're going to look like that's going to make everybody look bad because people aren't going to understand how it works. Because like that's another one that's extremely deep, and it's not that people aren't smart enough for it. It's just like we would need an entire like 4 hours just to talk about that one. But if you guys have enough people hit me up and they want to talk about it, we could have a 4-hour scope and we could have a conversation about the money illusion. So moral credential effect, tendency, track record, and non-prejudice to increase subject. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, don't manipulate people because it's dangerous. It's much more dangerous for you than it is for them because they're giving you an organic response, but you're not giving an organic action. And every time you act inorganically, per se, every time that you have a directed action that's based on more bias than not bias, you negatively affect yourself, and it actually you are not closer to who you are. Every organic action that you take that's less manipulative, every action that you take that's less manipulative than the last, you are closer to finding who you are. That's my recommendation. Don't manipulate people. You will find yourself much more quickly. I don't always know what to do. Yeah, well, explore these biases. Understand your brain. I'm telling you, man, that's man, woman. That's the fastest way to clarity and to being more self-aware. Really is understanding how the brain works. Because most people don't. They're very reactionary, and it sounds cold and it sounds dead and boring and mean. Dude, you're talking to an entertainer. You're talking to a dude who's like silly. Like I'm the silliest dude on the planet. Like you know that. Like I freaking have all my screws loose. It's hilarious. I'm not funny, but I'm just freaking weird, right? But not weird in like a bad way. I'm just like, I'm always going. I got so much energy. But like learning this stuff was like one of the best things I could do for my life. Absolutely one of the best things I could do for my life. Because it took me from a stray bullet to like accuracy, So, because when you know who you are and you're not manipulative, you have accuracy. And when you have accuracy, you have relevancy. And when you have relevancy, you have growth. Moral credential effect, the tendency of a track record of non-prejudice to increase subsequent prejudice. I honestly don't understand that one. Not gonna joke. I really don't. See, like, I have a list of them, but these are like more specific. These are breaking them down even more. Negativity bias or negativity effect. Psychological phenomenon. This is a big one, guys. Everybody here on this one. Everybody who's rebroadcasting me, everything. Listen to this right now. Psychological phenomenon by which humans have a greater recall of unpleasant memories compared with positive memories. See also actor-observer bias, group attribution error, positivity effect, and negativity effect. So this is people's tendency to focus on negativity, okay? To recall negative memories. And that is tied into, once again, our more carnal instincts, our deeper instincts is to focus on negativity. Because, and here's why. If you have two bushes and like they both got berries and you're like, and this is when we're hunter-gatherers, because our genes don't change more than 1% every 10,000 years. So biologically, we are still hunter-gatherers. That's not an exaggeration. You can look into it if you don't believe me. It's not Jimmy knowledge, it's fact, okay? We're still cavemen. We haven't changed. We're still cavemen. Biologically, we're still cavemen. And the way that our brain works, we're still cavemen. But language is technology. Language is the way that we communicate. The phones, all that, like, guys, dude, everything from language to culture to religion, everything, it is a form of technology. It is a form where man has found an ability to further connect with one another on a more consistent and rhythmic basis, okay? And that's tough. That's some deep, deep, deep stuff. We're not going to go into that. But my point of the matter is, as a hunter-gatherer, you had two bushes, and they both had berries. And there's a lion hiding in one of the bushes. Well, that bush starts to shake. If your natural reaction was like, oh, cool, it's a shaking bush, and you went over to that bush and you got eaten, right? Or there were two rocks, and you knew there was like water flowing under the rock. I don't freaking know. We're just going to go with it, okay? It's water. I don't know. Let me think of something better. You're by a stream, and there's like grass and stuff, but you need water, and you hear hissing on one stream, and on the other side of the stream there's no grass. It's all bare and just water. Well, if you saw the grass and you're like, oh, that's pretty grass, I want to go walk through it, and then you hear the hissing, your natural reaction is to be afraid or to be negative about it, okay? And that's your natural reaction, is to negativity first. You're not like, ooh, cool, it sounds like a rattle. No. You get nervous. You get scared because it's different. Because your brain is naturally uncomfortable with things that it doesn't understand, and is naturally uncomfortable with things that are different. Okay? That's why racism exists. That's why homophobia exists. That's why sexism exists. Because the human brain, at one point or another, has discomfort with something that it cannot relate to or that it cannot understand. It's that simple. Now, the things that build on those things are deep, right? The culture, the language, all that stuff, that all builds on top of the main subject. The main subject is discomfort with something we don't understand. On top of that is all of that other stuff. That's very important. It's just as important. Everything that ties into it. But the core, in the back of our brain, the emotional reaction that triggers the onslaught of all that other stuff that's engaged with it, the emotion comes from our fear and discontent with differences. That's scientific fact. That's not Jimmy opinion. Remember that. Every time that your brain comes to a point of discomfort with what I say, remember and focus. Take your thoughts off of me and put them on the information. This is scientific fact. This is not me trying to prove a point. This is me trying to help. Pay attention, because this will change your life. Remember that. This is not Jimmy info. This is fact. Go Google it. You freaking Google something, you go Google that. Moving forward. Because I don't want you to get lost. When you hear some of this stuff that might sound tough or controversial, I don't want you to get lost in the sea of deceit and anger. I want you to remember the facts. And remember that I'm not here trying to serve you with some sort of tell you you're wrong speech. I don't care what you think, quite honestly. I care what I think, okay? And I don't share what I think anymore because it's about me. I don't care. I'm here sharing facts because these things apply to everybody because this is science, all right? So that's that. Sorry. It's not that I don't care about your opinion. It's just it doesn't change me. And I don't change you. My opinion doesn't change you. You know what I mean? It's personal. It's personal. It's my opinion. So anyway, so we have, that's the negativity bias. So that's why people get negative, believe it or not. On that deep of a level, that is why people get negative. Because we are naturally inclined to be afraid of things that we don't understand. And there are many, 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 many things in this life that we do not understand or comprehend. So we naturally move towards a negative thought because we operate at such a fast pace in society that most things that we actually engage with and are a part of are something that not that we don't intellectually understand, but we biologically don't understand. Our body has a brain, right? You have the brain of your consciousness, so there's one little piece, and the rest of your brain is back here firing and doing its thing 24/7. But that brain is over 10,000 years old. Much over 10,000 years old, right? So when you sit in a car, for those of you that can grasp this, good for you. This is some deep stuff. Our brain, when you sit in a car, your conscious brain says, okay, we're in a car, it's a car, blah, 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 right? But the rest of your brain has no freaking idea what the heck a car is. It can't even conceptualize why the heck, like, we're not out foraging for our food. It's like, whoa, this food is in front of us right now, right? How could you're like, no, Jimmy, that can't be true. Careful. If you're not believing what I'm saying, you're saying no to science. That same science will say that the reason that you can't accept what I'm saying right now, what I'm reading off of Wikipedia, it's real factual information, is because it's difficult to grasp. If your brain wants to deny what this is here, it's because it's difficult to grasp, which actually proves just that. It proves exactly what I'm saying. All right? So that's that. So next, that's the negativity bias. Neglect of probability. The tendency to completely disregard probability when making a decision under uncertainty. So hope. When we really, 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 really like somebody or we love them. And for example, when people kill people and their spouse stands for them. When their spouse just won't believe it, right? They say like, oh, no. They definitely didn't do that. They definitely did not do that. They couldn't have done it. When like all the evidence says they did it. You know, like here's the murder weapon. Here's the victim. Here's the blood we found on your son's hand. Here's the phone log of him saying, I'm going to come kill you. Here's the GPS tracker of his vehicle. Here's the blood. Here's her blood in his trunk. And an imprint of her body in his trunk. And she'll still sit there and be like, it wasn't him. He didn't do it. My son would never do that. Right? And you've seen that. You look on crime shows, you'll see that. And that is neglect of probability. So the tendency to completely disregard probability when making a decision under uncertainty. And how do I hate to relate such a story, but how do I tie that back to us and the haters? The tendency to completely disregard probability when making a decision under uncertainty, right? So people are uncertain. There is a small fraction of people who are uncertain about me. And the reason they are uncertain is because of the fact that I'm not giving them answers. But here's why. there are no questions. I repeat, there are no questions to be asked. The questions that are being asked are fake questions that are being raised by people who invented fake evidence and fake stories. Neglect of probability. They're getting false evidence, and then they're not getting evidence from me because they've already believed the lie of a story. So now they're believing false evidence, right? So then when probability says more than likely those stories aren't true, they neglect it because they want to cling on to their ego and to what they already know to be true. That's neglect of probability. Normalcy bias. The refusal to plan for or react to a disaster which has never happened before. So, for example, I lock my car at night. I have had people approach my car, so I guess that's not a good example. What's a good one? I keep all my passwords protected. Like, I always change my passwords, like, all the time, stuff like that, right? I have never been hacked before. My accounts have never been hacked before. But I am constantly on the alert. I have friends that work in cybersecurity, both nationally and internationally, that keep an eye on my stuff for me. And they got their little programs or whatever. And some people might call that paranoid, right? But normalcy bias says the refusal to plan for or react to a disaster which has never happened before. So I already know for a fact, as we grow, that at some point in time, someone will make an effort to hack my content. They will make an effort to hop in and shut down what I'm doing, right? It's a fact. I mean, why would that not happen? But normalcy bias would be if I was here and I was like, well, I've never been hacked, so why would I have to worry about it? It's never going to happen. Why the heck would that happen? It's never happened before. Or if you've never been in a car accident, well, I need to wear my seatbelt. I've never been in a crash before. What do I need my seatbelt for? I don't need that. Right? I'm not going to get in a crash. I'm a good driver. Justification. That's normalcy bias. Well, I've never been hacked before. What do I got to worry about? I'm Jimmy Saroka. Nobody could touch me. False. Humility. Somebody can touch me because somebody out there is good enough. So this somebody is going to be as prepared as possible for when it happens. That's normalcy bias. As far as the haters, nobody has ever actually shut them down before. Now they're starting to disappear and we're not even on the app anymore. Normalcy bias. Not invented here. Aversion to contact with... that was weird. How are you not bored? Like, go to bed. If I were you, I'd be so bored right now. Or maybe you are. But you're still here. I don't know. Observer expectancy effect. When a researcher... Is anybody in here right now? I'll keep going, but is there anybody chilling right now? You guys that into it? I'm in bed. Oh my gosh. I can't believe y'all are still here. There's even one person. I can't believe there's even one person still here. Well, sweet. I was gonna go anyway, but like I said, we got replay viewers too. There are people who will seriously sit here and they will watch 3 hours of me talking about this. So that's why I put it up for them. But okay, so observer. Should we leave? Well, I mean, if you want to, it's up to you. I don't think it's a matter of should. I mean, that sounds like a right or wrong observation. It's not a right or wrong question. Observer expectancy effect. When a researcher expects a given result and therefore unconsciously manipulates an experiment or misinterprets data in order to find it. I think this happens to a lot of people who hate on me that are not the core haters. Like, I think the core people who are like crazy fans just make up stuff for attention. But then I do think there are a group of people who are completely misled. So they expect me to like make more mistakes when I haven't even really made like super bad ones. Um, so then like they're in their mind it manipulates the next time they see data. So like the next time that there's an outcome or like something works out or doesn't work out, the assumption is, oh well then he must have done something wrong. You know what I mean? Like, oh wow, well it must be true because I don't like him and he's doing bad things just because I think he is. Observer expectancy effect. Omission bias. The tendency to judge harmful actions as worse or less moral than equally harmful inactions. So this, oh my gosh, I don't know if I should go into this. This 100% of mankind suffers from this. Omission bias. The tendency to judge harmful actions as worse or less moral than equally harmful omissions or inactions. So what's worse? I give $10 to like what? Okay. No, what's a good example? Omission. Okay. I beat somebody up so bad that I put them in the hospital. Then on the flip side, I knew that on the flip side, I'm a government employee, and I knew that I heard some insider information from a spy who had trusted me, and I know this is so far fetched, but just run with me here. I'm doing my best. And he actually told me that there was going to be a nuclear strike on America in like 5 hours, and I chose not to say anything because I don't care. Right? Which is worse? The lie by omission or putting somebody in the hospital? What's worse? Beating somebody up or not saying anything about the missile strike? Some people, believe it or not, they would say that it's worse. That now let me give you some context. That spy